Hi everyone, my name is Sarah Tessnair. I'd like to talk to you today about some common misconceptions of funeral directors and the funeral or death care industry. I've been involved in the funeral industry now for 4 years, a licensed funeral director for one of those years. What I'd like to begin with is a quote by one of the best poets that I know. His name is Thomas Lynch. He's also a licensed funeral director in the state of Michigan. He says that a good funeral gets the dead where they need to go and the living where they need to be. I feel that quote is also true regarding a good, caring funeral director. Usually, after the services that I give to a family, I receive a huge hug and just an exhausted thank you for the services that I've helped provide for a family's loved one. Um, Very few times, do people still have that kind of weird attitude towards me, just like a stranger would in a grocery store that sees my name tag. They usually give you that weird look, and they don't know what to say to you or what to ask, so they kind of just go about their way, or they'll give you the uncomfortable joke for them of, aren't people just dying to see you, or one of the other ones that they think is so, witty. We've heard those jokes millions of times, so and I just laugh politely as though I've never heard the joke before and just go about my way. But, once a family has actually experienced our services, they almost understand and appreciate, there's not that mystery behind it anymore. So, what I'd like to do today is go over just a few of misconceptions that people do have of the funeral industry and the funeral directors involved in it. We could be here all day going over all of the different ones, so I'll just go over a few today. Um, let's take a look first at the people that are involved in the funeral industry. People tend to think that all of the funeral directors are just kind of like the funeral director was in the movie Phantasm, just the old man with the stoic look upon his face and just kind of tapping his fingers as he waits for the next person to kick the bucket and bring up his business. We're not like that at all, actually. I mean, obviously death is a part of our business, and that's what keeps us going, but you know, actually, according to the American Board of Funeral Service, 67%, I'm sorry, 57% of the majority of students make up are women. Um, Also, 17 to 22-year-olds make up 36% of new students, and those over 30 make up 30%. Um, According to squidoo.com, most of funeral directors are outgoing and people oriented and not somber and obsessed with death like people tend to think, and they strive to make people feel comfortable with an uncomfortable topic, but typically they aren't drawn to the macabre any more than the average person is. So really, we're not any more entrenched with everything than just the average person is. So that's modern myth number one that we're going to go over today. Um, Modern myth number two is what a funeral director has to deal with. People come up with all kinds of intelligent ideas that they think that funeral directors perform, and what our daily duties are, and all of that. A lot of people think that we just sit around and cry all day because they don't know how we can handle such high strung emotions with the unusual things that we see on a daily basis. It can be hard sometimes, definitely. Different situations like with children, or just tragic events. I mean, we are human. We're still human, and we still have to deal with emotions. um, a lot of people have heard about scary stories like the crematory in Georgia that didn't cremate people, or the South Carolina funeral home that cut a man's legs off for him to fit into the casket. um, Unfortunately, those aren't so much myths. I mean, they did happen, but it's not something that happens in every funeral home like people tend to think. Um, I honestly don't know. Those are very far and few between that you hear those news stories. So actually, the funeral directors have to deal with a lot, and they actually have come up with their own disorder, if you will. The National Funeral Directors Association, the director, psychologists have recently come up to realize that funeral directors can suffer from a condition called compassion fatigue. Regarding this disorder, they say funeral directors can deal with the finality of death in a respectful way every day and meet the demands of serving the bereaved. These hurdles, when coupled with the long and often irregular hours the profession demands, dealing regularly with the interrelationship between employees and often family members, the depressing environment that grief can produce, and a little leisure or private time, there is potentially debilitating array of daily challenges funeral directors must successfully manage simply to survive. So that's coming straight from the Director magazine, like I was saying, that we do have to deal with a lot of raw emotion, but we're kind of built to take this job, and we make it through okay. I think it's a God given talent to be able to deal with this job. So the last point that I would like to discuss now that we've gone over the emotional issues, um, it's probably the most hurtful to our industry and the individuals that are involved, especially myself. I take it very personally when people had this attitude towards me, and that is that people tend to think that funeral directors are so money hungry that we just try to take advantage of people in a dire situation, and we just try to take all of their money from them, and that couldn't be any further than the truth. I mean, in my case, obviously, just like with the horror stories of other funeral homes, that does exist in some funeral homes where people think that they're being treated like a car salesman would treat them, like they got to have the Cadillac of the caskets and everything. What we do at my funeral home that I work at is we present all of the different options and we let a family choose. We're not there to take advantage of them. We're there to provide a service to this family that obviously we've went to school with and we've been trained for. Um, and technically, according to our owner Jimmy Altmeyer, 85% of the money that we bring in, our revenue, goes to cover expenses. So that only leaves 15% as actual profit, which is nearly not as much as people think that it is. They think all these funeral directors make huge amounts of money, and we just are rolling in it all the time, and that honestly cannot be any further from the truth, especially with trends like on the rise, like cremation and things like that. So, um, really, behind all of these myths and truths, and there's lies and truths and everything involved in everything, but um, behind everything, what to me lies there is an honorable and selfless profession. It's almost a lifestyle, if you will. It's something that I've poured myself into day and night. I've made many sacrifices to the profession and the families that I serve. And it still bothers me that, we could be such selfless people in our jobs and we still get such disrespect and, negative light towards us. It's not right. I mean, everybody has their bad people in the profession, just one bad apple in a bunch, just with anything. But when things go wrong in our profession, it brings up all kinds of misconceptions, and that's just something that's going to be a never-ending job for us. In our industry, we'll probably always have to do it. Um, but overall, to me, funeral directing, as stated by Mr. Lynch, represents something done with the dead, something done for the living, and something done by the living. I think that's the main thing that I'd like for you to carry about funeral professions.